This is Chase breaking it down. He says Brock Purdy's first 20 starts versus last 20 starts.
Yeah.
Excluding the 2022 NFC Championship game when he got hurt. First 20 starts, 17-3, 69% completion, 39 touchdowns, 9 picks, 116.6 passer rating. Last 20, 10-10, 64.4% completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, 15 picks, 93.6 passer rating. Brock has stated that he wants to get back to kind of like how he felt early on. And, when he talks about it, he's like, yeah, I just competed my butt off. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just competed my butt off. When you see those numbers, one, does it give you pause? Is there anything that you can point to? Is this Brock? We see which one is the real Brock? Is Brock a 500 quarterback who's going to throw a lot of picks, 15 picks? Or is he, a 17-3 quarterback who's going to complete 70% of his passes and be, let's say, top 10 in the league across the board at the position? Which is the real Brock Purdy?
This is such a cop-out answer. I mean, if I'm going to give you the answer to your question. I'm not going to be a puss about it. The latter is closer to the real Brock Purdy. Okay. There's the answer to that question. But both of these Brock Purdys are real. The original, that first Brock Purdy, when circumstances were ideal, is absolutely real. That's a thing, right? He is not, and I know a lot of people want to say that Brock Purdy is just a byproduct of circumstance. Those people seem to forget the circumstances that preceded Brock Purdy, because the same situation applied to Jimmy Garoppolo, who was having a solid enough year in the limited time. The same circumstances applied to Trey Lance. Those guys were handed good teams, right? And ultimately, they weren't able to make as much out of them as Brock Purdy did. Brock Purdy maximized that situation. When the situation isn't ideal, Brock Purdy is making something out of it. Right? So it's not perfect. No one would expect perfection, particularly this season, given the circumstances around. Every quarterback's better if you give him better players around him. But the idea that that original standard is something that he should be consistently held to, as I said earlier, when circumstances change, our opinions can change. Circumstances have changed. It's not as good as it was. Of course it isn't. Anyone watching can see that. Offensive line isn't as good. The running game has nothing. You don't have Christian McCaffrey playing at an MVP level in your backfield. You don't have Deebo Samuel, save for one game against Miami for whatever the hell that was worth. George Kittle's in and out of the lineup this year. You're using Juwan Jennings as your X receiver. All of these things, yeah, Brock needs to elevate above it. And when the contract is here, he won't get this level of deference and excuse making for sure. But both of those are real, and both of those are positive, right? Oh, he's not been as good lately. Who would be? Patrick Mahomes hasn't been very good this year. The difference between Patrick Mahomes and Brock Purdy is that the 49ers have been god-awful situationally, and the Chiefs have been perfect situationally. They can't help but be great in situational.
They haven't been good in the red zone, but yeah, I know what you're saying. They've been good.
The 49ers on third downs. The defense is horrendous. Come out with your spreadsheet. I don't give a damn. I watch their defense, and anytime they need to make a play, they fail to make a play. At a certain point, it comes down to situational football. And the 49ers, because they've honestly been in so many games where they're getting their ass kicked, haven't been in a tremendous amount of situational football scenarios. And they don't maybe have the competency to be in a lot of situational scenarios, but they're one of the worst situational football teams I've ever seen. Legitimately. Because they when they find themselves there, they completely shit their pants every time. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. That stuff does matter, and that stuff does have to be held against Purdy, but that's not just Purdy. That is an overall illness on this team. But when this team was cooking, they never found themselves in situational scenarios because they were kicking everybody's ass so hard. So that's what I want to see. I want to see them play good situational football if they have the opportunity at some point this season, just to let me know that it's there. And if you can do it against Detroit, all the better, because that's going to be a very challenging matchup for them. But both of these Purdys are real. And if you're going to say which one's the real one, Yeah, the one that has less insulation's the real one. But everybody has to face those same things. Jared Goff has not been the same quarterback since David Montgomery went out. What happens when that offensive line isn't the best in football anymore because Jared Goff's making $55 million a year and there are certain sacrifices that have to be made? What happens when you don't have Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator anymore because he takes over on a different team? What happens when things that have been happening to the Niners over the last 5 years start happening to the Lions, who haven't won shit yet? We'll find out.
They're paying their quarterback $55 million, so that this is the team that they can put around him. By the way, it's not like they're going to pay him; they are paying him that.
Well, it really kicks in next year.
But like Philly, Green Bay, Detroit, they're all paying their quarterback $50 million, and they all have loaded rosters.
But those rosters have also not been decimated by injury in those particular spots the same way. Right? Like the Eagles.
The Niners are contributing to their problem because they went all in on Hargrave and they missed out on all these top 3 picks. And it's just when you miss as many top 3 picks as they've missed, you can't go for Hargrave. And if you do, you better hit. And instead, now he's out for the year and their depth is has been depleted. And they're just not the same team because they're not as deep as they were. Brock Purdy, though, has gone back-to-back games where he's thrown back-breaking, interceptions to finish the game. I'm going to share the screen on this one because this is the one that. Oh, I guess I'm already sharing the screen. Huh? There we go.
Yeah, we got to see the entirety of Chase Senior's timeline there.
There we go. We were sorry about that, but here it is. Here's the play that I was going to play.
Get your hands on Kittle.
Okay, now I'll turn the volume down on this so we don't have to listen to the announcers. But this is Brock Purdy. His value proposition is tied to decision making. He's supposed to make good decisions. Here's 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. They're down 5 points. They're on the 47-yard line. It's 1st and 10. Okay, there's 2 minutes. The game. You don't need to ever take any chances right here. You don't really need to take any chances until you need to take a chance. So there's no reason to be this aggressive.
Right.
There's no reason to throw this ball.
He doesn't trust any of these people out there, and so he forces things into windows that don't exist because he's afraid of his line. He's afraid of what his receivers will do. He doesn't trust them.
And he's so scattered here that it's just like make something happen, make something happen, make something happen. It's not that desperate of a situation. You need to keep your wits about you. His dials right now are off as far as risk reward. They were perfectly set. And now he's looking more like Derek Carr, where it's like kind of broken. Now, here's a stat. 49ers are minus 53 in scoring margin in the fourth quarter. That's dead last in the NFL.
Sounds right.
Are you putting that on Brock? Are you putting that on Shanahan? Are you putting that on the defense? Are you putting it on all 3? Why are the 49ers the worst team in the NFL, minus 53 in the most important quarter? Why?
Because the first part of a game is about script and the second part of the game is about players. There's no script.
And they have no players.
They don't have the players. And that includes Brock. That includes the fourth quarter. And it includes Kyle Shanahan, who can't put his players. When it just turns into ball, when you just have to go off your gut, when you're just kind of winging it, right? And it's all about feel. He doesn't have feel. This is a bad test taker. You know those guys who are pretty smart, but in school they couldn't take a test because they'd panic, they'd freak out because I didn't prepare for exactly this. They got no wiggle room, they got no ingenuity. His genius, and he is unbelievable. His genius is when he can spend all week on it, and you can see that preparation take a toll on his body throughout a season. There's no pragmatism to this man. And so when the game comes down to it, he just gets crossed up. He chokes up in big-time scenarios because you can't script those scenarios because there's no way to prepare for the infinite amount of possibilities that could be coming your way late in the game. And so everything is about this rubric that he's built. And guess what? Football games rarely hold to a rubric. Now, if you're winning, they do. But if you're losing, toss it out the window, figure something out. He can't do stuff like that. And his quarterback has now been trained in his system so that he's lost a little bit of that ability, right? He's got to do it Kyle's way or the highway. Well, Kyle's way doesn't work when you're down and you're losing. And now I got to go out there and make something happen. And the defense, I mean, the defense is strictly just you don't have the dudes. And eventually teams lean on you. And eventually you break down because you don't have the dudes. And you don't have the dudes in the most important spot. You don't have them up front. And so you're playing. I mean, how many times have we noted this year the first string defense, just the defensive line, just getting pushed around in the fourth quarter because, oh, well, they didn't actually get that rest that the system predicates, right? Years and years. You'd be like, why isn't Bosa on the field? Well, it's because they're giving him a series off. And he gets a lot of series off during the games. And you kind of wonder, man, that's kind of ridiculous. This is why. Because when you ask them to go, backfield, there's never a rep off in the NFL, but there's certainly not when you're in a one gap and go system and every play is explosion off the line. And by the fourth quarter, you don't have your legs under you anymore. So what happens? You get pushed around. You get pushed off your spot. They can run the ball on you. James Conner, Arizona, week 5. I mean, textbook example. And it hasn't gotten any better since. First half of the game is script. Second half of the game is players. The Niners don't have the players. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know about it. And the problem is that Kyle can't script through his life because that's not how games work. That's not how the world works. And the team just clams up when it comes down to situational football or circumstantial football because we weren't prepped on exactly this. Yeah, you're never gonna go play some ball. Go use your talent.
I'm reading a tweet here from Chase Sr. Says the Niners should sign Daniel Jones this offseason to be Brock Purdy's backup. Put him on the Sam Darnold plan, a year to reset, be around a good organization and coaching staff, and serve as a high-level backup and veteran developmental prospect behind Purdy. Okay, so my plan for rebuilding the 49ers is I'm bringing Brock back. He's the starting quarterback. But I also kind of feel like part of his regression is that he is a guy that is a great competitor. And they took away a lot of that competition as soon as they just said, oh, it's all you. And we're just going to have, can't do it Brandon Allen, can't do it Josh Dobbs. We're going to have all these can't do it guys around you. I really think that they need to pay Brock Purdy, but they also need to bring some more, bring back the competition. Have a guy there that this year it seemed like let's make Brock happy. I don't need happy. I don't want happy. No. I don't like happy. I don't want content. Right. I want you get the best out of Joe Montana when Steve Young's right there. You get the best out of Steve Young because Joe Montana is right there. You're going to get the best out of Brock Purdy if there's a guy there that if he throws a late pick in the fourth quarter, that they can say, hey, Brock, sit down. We're going to Sam. We're going to this guy. We're going to that guy. Now, I don't know if Daniel Jones is that guy.
He's a good option. That's, to me, a viable option in that regard.
They need a much better number 2 quarterback sitting right there. I think it's a major portion of the Brock Purdy value proposition. I want Brock Purdy coming back, but I want to make sure that you're holding his feet to the fire. Mm-hmm. No more, this is yours. You're already going to pay him a ton. So he's already going to have that assurance knowing that he's the money guy. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You got to have somebody there that if he makes these stupid mistakes in the middle of the field, that you can say, hey, Brock, you're not seeing it well today. Sit down. We're going with Zach Wilson. Brock, you're not seeing it well today.
I don't know if that's the example, but yeah.
We're going with Mac Jones. I don't want Brock Purdy
I think there's a better option.
I don't want a gigantic kumbaya. I want Brock Purdy to look over and go, damn, I hate that guy. And I want that guy to go, damn, I hate this guy. Yeah, I don't need these guys to love each other.
Take his job. Or these guys suck. I can't believe they get this much.
I need a real guy. Brandon Allen's not real. No. Josh Dobbs is 3-11.
Correct.
3-11. Correct. So he's not the guy. He's a backup quarterback. I need another guy. Give me somebody who's real. I'll take Mac Jones. I don't love Mac Jones though, because I just think Mac Jones is kind of sour.
There's an obvious answer here, and it's that on day 2 of the draft, you take somebody, and you say, we think that this guy should have gone
Ewers or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if Milroe falls, that would be perfect. Round 2, Milroe, and people will say, what a waste of a pick. Fuck no, just in the same way people went on, I can't believe you did Michael Penix. Now, was that maybe a failure for the Atlanta Falcons in organizational, just basic organization? Hey, we're going to we didn't get the eval done on Penix early enough so that we're going to give this guy $100 million. That's the failure. But having two quarterbacks is never a problem. It isn't, because Kirk Cousins had to play this entire season knowing that if he fucked up, and he did, that he was going to lose his job and that he was going to be out on his ass. And he moved his family, all this stuff. These are things that matter. And this is why it matters, these final games. The NFL is so different than any other league. NBA, the regular season, people do not care because they know it doesn't matter. Major League Baseball, every game is so diluted down in its meaning, it does not matter. In the NFL, even the San Francisco 49ers have a game that at least matters a little bit. It has a little bit of meaning in that there are guys out there, maybe not Brock Purdy, but maybe Brock Purdy, who are playing for their jobs, playing for their NFL livelihoods, because everybody is on a one-year deal in the NFL, save for Deshaun Watson. Like, everybody's on a one-year deal. And that if something goes wrong for any of them, we'll move on. Kirk Cousins will eat a $60 million dead cap hit. Russell Wilson with the Broncos will eat an $80 million dead cap hit. We'll just move on and we'll figure it out, because this whole thing is so fluid that every game matters, every down matters, and guys who are getting an opportunity to play have an opportunity to make themselves some money next year, and guys who have some money have an opportunity to show that they don't deserve it for next year. And maybe that's why Debo started playing his ass off in Miami, because he's like, I'm out. I better do something to convince them to keep me around, because otherwise they'll just take the dead cap hit of 10 mil. Instead, they could pay me 19. Like, everybody is playing for their job every snap of every week, outside of very, very, very specific circumstances. That's what makes the NFL awesome, is that there are stakes across the board all the time. And Brock Purdy, let's be real, you're right. They gave him everything he wanted. And this is a guy whose entire career has been built on this underdog mentality, and now he's the favorite. Now he's the winner. Now he's the top dog. Is it surprising that he looks a little different this year? Probably not, when you think about it that way. Give him some fire under his ass. It's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for the team, because if they're wrong about Brock Purdy and they just signed him to this contract, you're going to want an insurance policy in place, because now you're not desperate.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. I mean, most of the time you need a Hall of Fame quarterback to win. Is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? Probably not.
No.
Can you win with him? I think you can.
Absolutely.
But you should keep looking for a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Generally, I'm not saying, intentionally go draft a bunch of quarterbacks. You got other needs. No. But keep looking for a quarterback in the draft that you think's a future Hall of Famer every year, because that's what you do when you have a good but not great quarterback. You stay with your good but not great quarterback, and you keep looking for a great quarterback. By the way, John Shoup says Steve's best years were after Joe left. Joe was better before Steve showed up. This is a false narrative. John, you're wrong. Go look it up.
Also, of course, Steve's best years were after Joe left. That's how he got the job.
Well, no, but that's not true, because Joe didn't leave until 93, and Steve won the MVP in 92. So this guy is wrong. I mean, you can't tell me that Steve wasn't good when Joe was there. Steve himself has said to me that Joe's presence there was one of the reasons he was so good in 1992. And by the way, Steve Young won the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year award. That year, 1992, go look it up. Joe Montana was on the team. Joe Montana was on the team in 1992 when Steve won the MVP. Now, Steve was good after Joe left, of course, but he was MVP, when Joe was there. And to listen to Steve say it, having Joe there was absolutely, incentive, if nothing else. And as far as Joe Montana was best with Steve Young. Steve Young was acquired in the 87 season. Joe Montana's apex of his career was 88, 89, 90. That is when he was the awesomest. I mean, they won it in 81. They won it in 84. He was great in 84. He's the MVP of the Super Bowl. Yeah. But as far as where was Joe at Joe's best, it was definitely when Steve showed up, 88, 89, and 90. Those 3 years were amazing years for Joe Montana. So, Steve, false narrative. John? No.
No.
No.